I am lonely, yet I feel wonderful because I'm a woman now.
Last year, I was a man. I come from a very small town. There's not much to do in small towns to begin with. And when you had the problem that I had, there's even less to do. And no, I never had any friends. Boys could be very painful because they would say things that would hurt. And then if you were caught hanging around girls, they would say you were either homosexual, because they knew that I wasn't a playboy by no means. And yes, my life existed as me living in an attic bedroom for many, many years. But I always believed that tomorrow the sun would rise and it might bring something, some kind of clue as to why I was the way I was, why my development of breasts, why I had such a soft voice. There was so much feminine quality things in me that it was this, at that point to me it was disgusting because it prevented me from getting jobs. I remember when I was 11 years old, my family going away to the beach. And they were going to go for a couple of days, and I couldn't go because I couldn't get in the water. And I remember when they drove by, I just got in front of the mirror and I slammed the mirror so heavy at the medicine cabinet that the mirror shattered. And I just started hitting on my breast because here I was 11 years of age. I didn't know, God, I didn't know what was happening. And I hit myself. And at that time, my breasts were very, very, they were sensitive to pain. And which later on I found out that when a young girl is developing her breasts, at that stage, she's very susceptible to pain. And I hit myself so hard, just kept pounding on it that I fell against the floor. Because, and it's been that long that I was tormented with this problem until finally the doctors removed the disease and left me with my life at last. Up to this point, I have a complete normal, orgasm with a man, and that's one of the subjects that you hear among transsexual talks in the articles that I've read about transsexual, where they say that they can achieve 5, 6, 7, or 8 orgasms, and that's where I've drawn the complete conclusion that most of them are really screwed up mentally to begin with. Because, yes, I might obtain one in a relationship, and possibly if the relationship is good too, but there's no such thing as achieving 8, 9, or 6, the way a lot of transsexual discuss in some books or stories or television interviews that I've seen.
But
this thing about burning the bra and all of this nonsense, and first of all, it took me a long time to wear one. I'll be damned if I'm going to burn it now. I feel like I am what I was meant to be. I can honestly say I'm myself. It's as simple as that. I have an opinion that a lot of people who undergo this surgery are really and still remain emotionally homosexuals just by the conversations they have in fact, at the doctor's office, the doctor thought that he has a certain date set out for them so that the rest of the patients don't come in there and have to hear this kind of talk that goes amongst them. And he even arranged it that I would come on the days when the regular people would come in. And he said, I don't think you belong in that crowd to begin with. And this doctor does treat a lot of them. But I never thought of myself in that light, so how can I be something I never believed in it in the first place? And up to this point, I'm still, to some degree, you could say I like Anita Bryant. And she's against a lot of that. And I believe that individuals should live their life as best they want or can, even if it means accepting things like that. But for me personally, I would never. In fact, my dream in life is one day to adopt children, and sometimes the thought of maybe one being a homosexual, it would frighten me to the point that I think I'll have second thoughts about adopting kids. And a lot of people are transsexual. I've told people that I am a transsexual, and the first thing they say, you mean you were once a man? And that's very strange. It's so hard for me to get that kind of question back because I've never saw myself in that light. In fact, that was the masquerade at one time in my life when I was trying to be a man for family reasons, because other than that, if not, people would think of me as a homosexual.
it's to be.
I came from a very Puerto Rican family, very low in education, and me, myself, I was in about the 7th, 8th grade, and no, 7th grade, because I never made it past the 7th grade. I only went two weeks, and well, by that time, I had a very developed breast that came on naturally when I was 11 years of age, and a very ignorant doctor, they were examining us, and this doctor thought it was so, he just told the nurse, we don't want the girls till tomorrow. And from then on, I just couldn't face those, you know, those kids making fun of me. All I knew that everybody, I thought to myself that everybody knew about me. And so that was the last, I was to, you know, to attend school. To some degree, I have put a lot of doubts in people about the subject itself, because some of them do tend to have a low opinion about transsexualism, and maybe the fact is because I can be myself, because I am myself. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to fake anything. There was no way I would have wanted to live before. A psychiatrist actually, when I showed him my breast development, which I had at the age of 11, this psychiatrist tells me, well, I have the same thing. You know, it's a very common thing. And here he opens his shirt and reveals his breast, and all that was behind there was blubber, because the guy weighed over 300 pounds. So, you know, and so that, I didn't even believe when I went in there, because the first thing he said was, by the time we get through, Alicia, you will be going with broads from corner to corner. And I knew that was just like removing the soul from a human being. What was going to be left of me? There were times when I considered suicide, because the operation in itself was going to be so hard to accomplish. You know, require a lot of money, and I've always been the type of person that I used to go up to the doctors, and I practically waited for them to leave their offices and say, look, can you help me? I don't have no money. I'm not well educated enough to one day have a, you know, financially independent, and unless I find this, it's going to be my life. And I remember telling one doctor, you know, aren't you supposed to help the human being, or is money more important than the person's life? And that doctor just had me thrown right out of the office. He said, how did you get in here to begin with? I don't even have office hours today. My first date and lover, because this was after the surgery, I met a very nice, good-looking, I've always been very choosy, and this was a very good-looking German man. And we dated each other a couple of times. Then I decided to try out, you know, this was the first time I was to go to bed with the operation, with anyone. And so the time came, and I went to bed with a young man, and maybe because he was the first, or maybe the surgery was still a fresh surgery, I started bleeding, and so I didn't even have to tell him why, because the first thing he said was, God, you know, this is the first time in my 28 years that I've been with a virgin. And then from then on, I was a little frightened, because I liked the guy as a person, but I didn't want him for something to just have around all the time, just while it lasted for a little while. And he thought that, then his idea of a girl bleeding, he was very German. That means that that's the kind you would want to marry, because she hasn't been around with no other man. And so that it was kind of cute. Then he left thinking, and he kept calling me, and he really said, look, I really want to get serious, because I really think you are a nice girl. I already know. And then I saw him on and off, and up to this point, he never knows. As far as he knows, he's just walking around with a happy smile, knowing that he once did have a virgin. Oh, the operation in itself was one of the most painful procedures I will ever have to undergo. And, well, at that time, it was a very painful procedure, to the point that I wish I would have died than to go through the pain that I was in. But today, now that I see all the success and possibly a good future to look forward to, I'd undergo the operation again and again. It was kind of hard to get a job. Even when I used to dress as a male, I didn't say live, exist, and pretended to be a male. I saw a photo of myself when I was 14 years of age. And it's, for some reason, that person was something that, I couldn't even stare at the picture straight, because it was like something that was pain. It involved so much pain and misery. It wasn't easy for the first, number one, I am not well educated in the sense that because of my problem with my breast, I didn't finish school. I did not know that there was any such thing as a transsexual or a surgery to adjust whatever, the mind to the rest of the body and so forth. And I thought that it was I knew that I was not a homosexual. I felt it. I didn't hate the idea of a homosexual because I wasn't it. But at that time, that's what people would have thought of me. They knew that what I felt inside, and I went to several doctors to see if they could give me answers. They were very ignorant in where this subject was concerned. One of them didn't even bother talking to me. He sent me to a stronger psychiatrist. He thought I was that badly disturbed. And I decided to take my life because I say, I'm not a homosexual. I can never live as a man. Certain things are expected of a male. When you're 18, you're supposed to start dating, marriage soon after that. And how could I have done something like that? It was beyond anything I could ever have done. And so I said that I was going to end my life at the age of 18. And I clearly remember getting pills and everything. I was totally prepared to commit suicide. And then one day, the same date, as a matter of fact, that this incident was to take place, Christine Jorgensen came over the Mike Douglas show. And he introduced her as a man who had undergone a surgery. And then she walks on stage. But still, I was still so naive and ignorant to such a thing as a sex change that I said to myself, oh, she must have just had slight alterations. And then when they show a picture of Christine Jorgensen in the service, you know, she looked more like a man than I could ever have been. So then, that was the first hint that I was what I believed all along. I was not something that people would think of as a homosexual, but that I was what I felt, a woman all along. In fact, one of the nicest stories that I will always relate to my life is the story of the ugly duckling, for the simple reason that one night he went to bed miserable, the next day he became a beautiful swan. And that's exactly when I went to buy the Christian Jorgensen book. It was so dusty, they gave it to me for half price because nobody was interested in that subject. And that was to be my first contact with the medical profession, that there was such a thing as being what I was by simply altering, you know, certain areas. And when I started reading her biography, my life actually started, it was like putting pieces of puzzles with the numbers and the puzzle and the number on the plate, on the sheet where the puzzles would go in. And from then on, life was again, I started living again. I merely existed. And then, like, I knew I had something to reach for. And along the line, I never thought of suicide after that. My family are very heavy Pentecostal Christians. And they're the type of people that they think that if you do give your life to the Lord or Christ, that, you know, you'll be safe from anything. Even if you have a leg missing, you place enough faith, you'll grow a new leg. And they always believed that if I gave myself to the Lord, that all of this would change. And they had my mind confused where religion was concerned. There was a time when I didn't think of religion. To some degree, I guess they've accepted the fact that I am very successful as a woman, because their explanations of why I am so successful and I appear very attractive compared to others is that that's the devil's way of getting other people to commit the same mistake that I did and condemn themselves to hell. The attitude that my family bred in me about, you know, if you ever undergo such a procedure, that you're condemned to hell for all eternity. And he made it quite clear that, you know, I'm still God's creation, regardless of whatever I did decide to choose. And if I was going to be happier for it, why would the Lord want me miserable if I could be happy? I do tell people about myself. They ask why I decided to do this. And I simply tell them it wasn't a matter of a decision. It was really a matter of life and death. And, well, if one is fortunate enough to trade in an unhappy existence and a miserable one for a chance at a brand new life and to be themselves for the first time in their life, why not go ahead with it?